Mr. Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 1, printed in Part B of House Report number 118-115, offered by Mrs. Boebert of Colorado.
Pursuant to House Resolution 524, the gentlewoman from Colorado, Ms. Boebert, and a member opposed each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in favor of my amendment, which will require the Government Accountability Office to make its report on the findings and conclusions of its study of the Federal Housing Finance Agency's loan level pricing adjustment revisions publicly available online. My common sense amendment will provide transparency for the administration to answer to the American people. The latest FHFA fee could result in thousands of dollars in additional fees for lower risk homeowners over time while encouraging and rewarding financial irresponsibility. This is a gross overreach and will ultimately contribute to the growing inflation problem we have in this country. Raising housing costs at a time when mortgage rates are at their highest, thanks to the Biden-Pelosi spending spree, will make housing less affordable and will result in higher mortgages, higher costs, and reduced access to credit for most borrowers. Joe Biden's agenda of equity over equality defies common sense and will endanger the stability of the housing market. The Republican majority is fighting tooth and nail to protect the middle-class homebuyers from Joe Biden's new socialist tax, which puts homeownership out of reach for the middle-class Americans. Borrowers with excellent credit should not be punished for doing right and be forced to bear more financial burdens due to fiscal irresponsibility that others have had. Unelected bureaucrats in Washington should not have the ability to impose these un-American regulations on hardworking middle-class families. I'm glad this bill puts an end to business as usual here in the swamp. I want to thank my colleague, Representative Warren Davidson from Ohio, for his leadership to block Joe Biden's new socialist tax to force middle-class borrowers to subsidize risky loans. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of my amendment as well as the underlying bill. Mr. Chair, I reserve.
Gentlewoman from Colorado reserves. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California seek recognition?
To claim time in opposition.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
I'll yield myself such time as I may consume. Well, actually, I don't even want to waste another minute on this pointless and redundant amendment. Anyone who pays attention to government oversight knows that the GAO already makes all of its reports resulting from legislative mandates publicly available on the GAO's website as soon as they're issued to Congress. So I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to oppose this amendment. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman from California reserves.
Mr. Chair, I yield.
Gentlewoman from Colorado yields. Gentlewoman from California is recognized.
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record letters of opposition to H.R. 3564 from the Center for Responsible Lending, the National Housing Resource Center, the National Housing Law Project, the National Fair Housing Alliance, and Americans for Financial Reform. These are all of the organizations who fight hard for home ownership, especially for middle-class Americans. They are opposed absolutely to this bill. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman from California reserves. Your request be covered by general leave. Okay. Gentlewoman from California is the only one who has time remaining.
I yield myself the balance of the time. Again, I don't understand why we're spending time on this amendment. It does not accomplish anything at all. It would require GAO to do something it already does. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman from California yields. A question